welcome to another episode of Sonic Talk. This is episode 336, I believe, recorded live today, Wednesday, 30th of October, the day before Halloween. Yes, it is the day before Halloween, one my daughter enjoys very much, who's turned 10 just last week. Happy birthday. Anyway, this episode is brought to you by Isotope. I want to say more on that a bit later. Look out for the new RX3, but we will be talking about that later. You can get a 10-day download free demo from isotope.com/RX3. Right, so let's start with some guests. I'm going to start in the studio because I have a very special Mr. Mark Tinley has joined us actually in the studio. He's here in person.
I came by car.
Greetings, I
came by car.
Mark Tinley, what were you doing here then, Mark?
I went to buy another Line 6 guitar. eBay.
Are you going to have like a massive rack of Line 6 guitar parts?
I now have 3 Line 6 guitars because I keep buying them because I'm thinking that one's too good to rip apart and turn into something else, and then I go and buy another one, and I turned up today and the one I just bought, as you saw, looks like the guy that's never played it, and it's all still got all the plastic on it and everything, so I'm thinking that's too good to rip apart and turn into a semi-acoustic Line 6 guitar, so I'm not sure what to do next. Buy another one, I suppose.
Well, I don't know what to say about that, but yes, the Line 6 introduction, maybe we should get them to sponsor the show, although we don't talk about Line 6 stuff all that much, although it's getting more and more of it. Anyway, Mark is, of course, music technologist and sound artist and creative thinker at likebeing.com. There you go, he's even got his third right there. I imported it. It's got the new font and everything. You'll be pleased to know.
Excellent.
And we'll also say hello to Mr. Dave Spears, g4software.com, right there in his synth cave, wearing a Sonic State T-shirt. Nice. See you flying the flag. Brandy. Look at that. Bit of brand nice.
Do you want to see something really cool?
Yeah, of course. Always.
I've got something really cool here. Ready?
Flipping heck. What's that? It's got lights on. I've never seen one with
lights.
I want to see with lights on.
No, they're just the faders. Oh, they are.
Cool, that. And look, I don't know whether you can see this, but when you play the envelope, these light up according to the envelope.
Wow.
See, ready? Go. And off.
That is so cool.
That's very Christmassy, Dave. That is beautiful. Yeah. What? That doesn't seem like you to go for the non-purist approach. That's all custom, man.
It's the Phil Sirocco, the CMS stuff. He does what's known as a Lumina display. And actually, the sliders are amazing because normally they get sticky and
they
get gunk in, so they're all completely. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful, and it's also got a little switch by the Odyssey logo, which switches between the 24 dB and the 12 dB version of the filter.
Lord.
Oh wow!
Wow. I mean, every week now, Dave. Surely there's got to be an end to this.
Yeah, when I'm buried.
Right.
No, this will come in useful for something obviously that we're talking about, which we won't talk about here.
Interesting.
Because it means we've got 3 of them.
Wow.
Nice.
That is so nice. That wow was Gaz Williams. GazWilliams.me, look, with his new third and everything.
Yes.
Don't never say that I'm not good to you. It's only taken me 3 weeks to retype several letters. But, I feel it was worth the wait. It looks beautiful. Now you've got to get the website sorted. Gaz Williams, of course, bass player, with his bass tree back there with various basses, and music technologist and reviewer of our of Machine Studio, actually. We just shot that yesterday, and that's going to be something that hopefully we will see when the embargo for the reviews is lifted. I've never heard of a review embargo because it's actually been announced, hasn't it?
It was, yeah. I think that's so 1st of November, and that's when it becomes available as well. So I think,
okay.
So any machine users out there, I think that come that date, I would get the software. Do not even question the wisdom of it. Just get it.
Yeah.
It really is well worth it.
Excellent.
Version 2.
Gaz does a rather marvellous, it's like getting on 30 minutes in-depth kind of thing, but it's good. It works out really nicely, actually. Hold on. I've just coming in. Breaking news. We have Noneric trying to get in touch with us, so I'm just going to go and sort him out. So I'll leave you with Mark, who will entertain you with biscuit eating.
Yes.
Well, today's
You must have a biscuit music story for us.
You from Maryland. I've told the biscuit story before, haven't I?
What is it?
The biscuit. Oh well, I used to get called Biscuit Tinley by Roger Taylor because I used to eat all the biscuits in the studio. But that's because I had no food in my house because I could never go shopping because I was always at work.
Well, we can now come straight to Mr. Noneric from Musotalk.de, who is over there and joining us from Germany. In Germany, no? Yeah, in Germany. Let me just let's see. Can you give us a bit of level then, Hans?
1, 2, 3, check. Can you hear me?
Wow,
is that okay? Or do you need more?
I need a bit more. You're very roomy, but I can see that you've got lots of space. That's why it's roomy, because you're in a spatial...
Yes. I have no microphone connected yet.
Let me just get you a little bit of gain on that channel a second.
Oh. Let's see, is that better?
Jesus, mine's gone really loud.
It's all right. I know why that is.
Yeah, it's impedance.
It's because I've got the impedance.
What you need is that de-reverb, deconvolution thing.
Unveil.
Yeah,
that's what we need.
Unveil him.
Okay.
Please unveil me, man.
Well, we may as well come to you now because you're there. That's Noneric from Musotalk.de, our kind of German mirror equivalent, music technology and other stuff, and does a lot of the same video type things that we do, but in German language. Well worth a visit. How are you, Hans?
I'm fine. Long time no see.
Yeah, absolutely. But good we have you, and I'm glad you arrived. But you need a headset, man.
Really?
Well, what can I say? The chat room are complaining, but I can't.
Let me see. Is it better if I talk into the camera like this?
Oh my God!
1, 2, 3, check.
It is. I'll just turn it down a bit. Yeah, because then it's not pulling up all the.
Sorry about that. So I need the full audio setup here, right?
Not necessarily. You could just do with
put an auto pan on him, Nick.
Yeah, auto pan. Yeah. We could just put a if you had a headset mic like a Plantronics or something, but maybe we'll sort it out. Anyway, good to have everybody here. Now let's see what our first topic is, because I know I've got one here somewhere. Oh yeah, this is actually this is a sort of creative, artistic one that I found. And I found this on Matrix Synth, and it's just a great. Let's see if I can. If we bring up the web, is that working? Yeah, the Matrix Synth. And this is basically Josef Skrzek. I think I'm pronouncing that right, and I'm not sure. There's a few videos. I'd never actually come across him before, but he's kind of like a prog rock from Poland of some note, and is part of Polish rock royalty. And looking at him, you'd sort of expect it perhaps to be very widdly and kind of, too many notes. But I just want to play this because it is absolutely beautiful. This is recorded. Now, I'm not going to be able to pronounce any of this properly. This is Josef Skrzek and Michael Banasik, who's the late Michael Banasik, who is clearly a brilliant organ player. As recorded live from the DVD CZAS2. I'm guessing Chaz. I'm not sure how you pronounce that either.
Chav.
But this is. I can't stop listening to this. This is one of the. This is one of those pieces that just kind of has grabbed me, and I can't stop listening to it. Plays the Moog in a minute. That's what I mean about there not being that many notes in it. But it's a lovely piece. Let's see. Here we go. Here he comes. And it's a lovely combination of sounds, I must say. Not quite so well recorded. I'm going to stop there now because you can go and watch that at your leisure. But I'd not heard of this at all, and it just sort of got me thinking about, well, a number of things really. But the first one was, you know, obviously there's a lot of stuff out there that we're completely unaware of due to the fact that, you know, it's just non-language. I mean, I'm guessing, Hans, you must, being on mainland Europe rather than Ireland, are you aware of this guy and kind of the stuff that he's done? Because it just completely passed me by. But I've looked at a load of his things, and there's some great. If you look at his website, which is skrzek.com. Which I think I got it here. There's a load of really good stuff, sort of filmic things, and just really tasteful and beautiful bits of music. So I'm going to put you on the spot and see if you've heard of him, because I haven't.
No. But what I found is, did you see the video at the bottom of the page where there is live from 79?
This one here.
And the hairdo seems to be identical almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
It's funny, isn't it? You kind of almost anticipate that it to be not as beautifully, but it's just beautifully musical. You expect it to be a lot more wiggly than it was, and it's actually really just a great piece of stuff. I don't know, Gnats, you're a rock progger fan. Have you heard of this guy? I've just completely passed me by, but I guess
no. But that is very much up my street. I love the idea of synthesizers in churches and sort of and church organs. I've rattled on about my love of church organs before in the past, especially of Jean Gillot, an organist who plays in Saint Eustache in Paris. I was in Paris for a few months last year and used to go and watch this guy play there, and he'd been the organist there since 1964, and he'd had the organ redesigned in 1989 to his specifications, you know. And the thing that was amazing about this guy, I mean, he studied under Messiaen, so he made these. You can go and see him. He plays there every Sunday, 5:30. It's free to go and watch. He'll play like a Bach piece, and then he'll play one of his own pieces. But his music is properly psychedelically mind-blowing. And what's particularly amazing about it is because he's been there for such a long time, not only is he playing the organ, he plays the room. Right, you know, he does these big sub-bass things and boom, and he knows how long it takes for the sort of for the echo of the bass, and then he builds that into his music, and absolutely, wow! You got to check him out, Jean Gillot.
Thank you. I'll check that out.
Something else.
There's actually a guy in Germany called Peter Bares, and he does classic music, but it's all improvisation, and he does it in a church. And they had the organ built to his specification for that special church, and it's so crazy, the music. I mean, it never repeats itself, but after a while you sort of really get into it and gets you really high, and it's the most wildest improvisations I've ever heard.
What's he called?
Peter Bares.
You'll have to send us a link so that we can put the show notes. I think the thing that I found special about this is because I know that playing an organ is actually really difficult, because in a large mechanical organ, in a large space like that, when you play the note, the sound doesn't come for, a quarter of a second or half a second or more in some cases. So playing along with that and responding to anything must be really, really difficult. I can't imagine how you would do that. Have you ever played an organ, Dave?
What, church organ?
Sorry.
Just clarify that, will you?
No,
a church organ, yes, once. It was bloody hard work.
Did you? Was it a pedal one? There used to be one in the nightclub upstairs in the nightclub that I used to frequent. That we used to pedal on.
Yeah, it had pedals. It was it had about sort of 7 or 8 manuals. It was nice actually, and exactly as Gareth says, it's the ambience. And I think, as you said, you know, playing with that ambience and everything is just awesome. I was blown away by this actually.
Oh, good. I'm glad you.
He looked like Father Jack, didn't he, for a bit? I was like, oh, come on.
Yes.
And then he started playing, and it's really tasteful, and it's nicely done, and there's a lot of space in between the notes, and very impressed. In fact, I kind of had it on repeat, and even the prog stuff, which I'm not wildly partial to, was bearable
acceptable.
for me. Yeah.
Wow, that's
and it's great seeing some of those synths, Sonic 6 and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, some great stuff in there. Oh no, Mark. Oh, that's not you, Mark. Where? Oh, that's Mark. Sorry, I've got a new button for Mark because he's in the studio. I keep forgetting. Keep looking for you on Skype. But you're not there. You're here.
I'm here. Oh God.
Good grief.
Where did I come from? In a car. What do I think? I like the sound of it. Reminds me of Pink Floyd's "Wish You Were Here." That very emotive somewhere. Well, I guess it's a guitar on the Pink Floyd thing, but maybe not actually. Maybe I need to go and re-listen to that. But it had that sort of
which
really
track?
Shine on You Crazy Diamond.
It must be that, yeah. It's like that lead solo sound is very similar. I don't know if the notes are the same, but
sounds like a sort of sine wave kind of thing, doesn't it?
But it evoked the same kind of emotion in me, and kind of like that soft kind of it's an open space kind of emotion.
Yeah, airy. It really did sound churchy, but without being religious, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I love churches. I love the sound in churches. You'll catch I go into Catholic churches and creep round in corners and like clap my hands and sort of listen to the ambience and the reflections and everything. Much to the clergymen usually come out to see what the hell's going on because there's this kind of guy shuffling around doing all this. And I kind of, can I help you? I'm I'm just listening to your reverb. Oh, they don't know what it means, but whatever.
That's brilliant. As I walk through the valley of the filters envelopes, I fear no evil. You are with me. Nice one. Thank you very much. Erroneous nickname. It's interesting, though, isn't it? That kind of idea of duetting with something as mechanical as that. I mean, I don't. Is there a kind of history of this? I don't remember seeing much of this going on. I mean, it just seems like such an obvious connection. But I mean, I've never seen it done, at least, or maybe I have seen it done, but discounted it, and that's just it, you know. And this has just been the only time it's ever worked.
It's to do with the length of the pipe, isn't it? The reason why there's the delay is because the whole thing's mechanical. So there's a bloody great big fan blowing air up pipes, and then you press a button or a key, and it opens a flap at the top of that pipe and lets the air out. So it's all about. Or does it? No, maybe it lets the air in the bottom and it's got to get to the top of the pipe before it sounds. But the higher notes have less of a delay on them than the lower notes. So there's got to be like a huge skill involved in getting that it's got to be like playing with what we're used to, latency, but there's going to be a variable latency across the width of the keyboard. It's got to be really hard to play.
That sounds like a bit of a nightmare. Anyway, I just thought I'd enjoy that. If you get a chance to check it out, he's called if I go to his site, Josef Skrzek, and it's if we go here, this is his website, and it's skrzek.com. I don't know if I've pronounced that right. Excuses if I haven't. I'm not so hot on Polish pronunciation. Did I say that right, Hans? Do you think?
No idea. Poland is close, but still, I wouldn't know.
You seem to have shrunk. I'm going to have to bring you back into focus here.
But before I forget, I want to really use the occasion to ask our iPad crew out there, the Sonic Touch crew, what you think of the interapp audio in GarageBand and in Aria and Beatmaker, because I was really disappointed because there's no input latency compensation. If you trigger everything from MIDI, while it seems to be in time when you play live. Any thoughts on that from you guys?
I haven't checked it out yet. I don't know, Dave, you were...
Yes?
I've tried it. I've tried it on GarageBand, but I haven't actually tried it with anything sort of percussive. I was just doing sort of quite long legato-y sort of synth stuff. So,
well, if you,
good tip.
Guess if you play it live in GarageBand, no problem. Yeah. So there seems to be no extra buffer. But when I use Beatmaker, route the MIDI to the interapp audio app, and it comes back, then it's late by one buffer, by a 256 samples buffer.
Wow.
And I was hoping that would be resolved, because on the iPad we're still in the pre-input latency days.
Good point.
Have you? Sorry, Dave, you were going to come in there. I think. Did you have something to add?
No, not on the latency front. I did a video on, because don't forget, GarageBand 10 is now sandboxed. Yippee! He rolls his eyes. So we were expecting a little bit of agony there, and so I did a video on, actually you can use third-party audio unit plugins in it, so I did a video which I put on our website, how to do that.
Dave, that's
because it's so hidden. Right? It's amazing. Sorry, Hans?
But you're talking about the Mac version. I'm talking exclusively about the iOS version, where we're hoping to. I mean, GarageBand on iOS doesn't have MIDI tracks, so you can't really check it. But Beatmaker came out with a new version, and I was routing MIDI into Nave from Waldorf, recording that through interapp audio, yes. Yeah. And then I found it to be just as late as if I would do it with audio bus. So it's more a problem of the hosts, I guess.
So, well, I mean, it's inevitable, really, that we're going to get these kind of real-time latency issues with something. I mean, the thing about a lot of the iOS apps is they get around this by using kind of pre-triggered or pre-configured trigger points, where you trigger a pattern, and so you pre-make something and then launch it. Certainly with the, and with GarageBand it does a lot of freezing, doesn't it, as well? So I mean, it's inevitable. But perhaps on the new iPad Air or whatever, where we've got the A7 and the X64 architecture, that might come down because obviously it's got a lot more extra processing.
But I don't think, Nick, that it's down to the processing power, because
it's just simply not. It's just simply not got latency or
compensation.
That's what you're suggesting, isn't it, Hans? It hasn't got the latency compensation like software used to not have in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. We're back in the dark ages,
in the bad old days. Right? Yeah, good point.
I was frustrated because I talked to a developer and he said, the interapp audio apps will be rendered in the buffer of the host application, blah blah blah, and I was generally hoping that I could sort of use an external app just like a plugin on my computer, but we're not there yet. But I talked to the Steinberg guys, and they have it on their agenda.
Well, that's good. Google in the chat room says we need to wait for iPad 9 to remove that latency.
iPad Pro.
Yeah. iPad Pro.
Yeah, but there's always a latency. That's inevitable, no matter how fast the hardware becomes, because you have input latency compensation on your Mac or PC as well. Yeah. But I just did a couple of tests actually that were rather disappointing and more or less frustrating. I tried Studio One, Logic, I tried Traction, and I think Pro Tools, and I was doing simple loopback tests to figure out whether the input latency correction would work properly. And I found that using my Pro Balance interface, there would be the wrong delay reported to the host. So Studio One is like 50 samples early. So it puts the audio file in front of the point where it's supposed to be. And I could compensate that with Logic and with Cubase and also with Pro Tools by, just giving it the right. I think you guys who know Logic, there's a special in the audio setup.
Yeah, input latency compensation, yeah.
Yeah, plus and minus, and you can adjust it via samples, which is great because then it's really spot on if you measured it yourself once. But if I put in a sculpture software synthesizer in Logic 10, input latency freaks out, and it's about 200 milliseconds late. And Mackie, the Traction program has an built-in loopback test, which then figures out the correct amount of milliseconds to
that would seem to be the most sensible thing to do, actually. I mean, have a built-in thing.
But it doesn't work. It's different with every buffer, so it's crazy. So I found no host application out there that would work properly out of the box, which means that that if you play something along to your playback and record it,
it's out of time.
And you ever wondered you're not really grooving, It could be down to input latency compensation not working the way it should be, which I think find extremely disappointing in the year 2013.
God, and I just thought I was a bad guitarist.
Certainly, Mark, not with all those Line 6 products.
I know, yeah. Well, there's latency in those.
Yeah,
that's a weird thing. I mean, if you play with headphones on and you're playing away, it just feels kind of okay, and your brain compensates for it.
Yeah,
if you play quiet through, by the time I've got a Line 6 guitar going through a Line 6 pod and then coming out a set of speakers, and there's going to be latency, even in the amps there's a bit of latency, and I can hear me plucking the string way ahead of it coming out the speaker, and it's a very strange kind of thing, because then your brain tries to mend that and tries to put the sound of the open strings on the electric guitar with what's coming out the speaker, and then it really gives you a full sense of what it sounds like. It's very odd.
It's interesting though, because we're used to working with latency across everything. You know, MIDI's got inherent latency. We just kind of get to it. Is there? Do you find, Dave? You know, one of the things of obviously getting all of these hardware synthesizers in, that there's a more positive playing experience just purely because it's you press the note and the voltage moves and there's very little latency. Is it a different kind of thing?
Yeah.
No latency on analog synths, actually.
Well, maybe
exactly.
the phase of a waveform.
One of the interesting...
Some keyboard mechanisms are pretty grim, though. I have to say that. No one really got their act together until, I reckon, the kind of late 70s, when you're looking at mid-70s and early 70s stuff. Some of the... I mean, even with bushings completely replaced and, you know, key beds just evened out as much as possible, sometimes they can be as flappy and scary as hell.
Interesting. Mark, you were going to say...
Do you guys find that it makes your playing worse? Because I tried, then I did a test and I was just playing eighth note, going tick 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 to figure out if I would have a better timing with less latency, or whether I could fully compensate. And I found that I'm actually better. I play a lot better, and it's less stressful if I have very little latency.
Yeah, well, I suppose that would make sense. Mark, you were...
I was reading something that a MIDI guitar designer had written. So the guy designed some of the Fishman stuff, and he was saying guitarists have a latency between this hand and this hand. So the hand that plays the chords leads, and they took, was it John McLaughlin, I think, the very good classical guitarist, and they measured the difference between what he was doing here and what he was doing here. And if you lead and play the chord with the left hand before you strum it on a MIDI guitar, the MIDI knows that that's happened, and you end up with these tiny little glitches. And he said that John McLaughlin's left hand was 20 milliseconds ahead of his right hand, I think.
Wow.
So that meant that he'd triggered the note with his left hand before he played the note with his right hand, so you get these little 20 millisecond glitches in there. So if you put all of the 6 strings down one MIDI channel, then it starts to cause all sorts of problems. But it's even inherent just in the way that we're playing. And he said, obviously, if you're not such a great guitarist as one of the best guitarists in the world, then, you know, there's going to be a lot more latency between making the chord shape and strumming it.
I suppose that's mechanical, which is something that you would have a feel for, and it's sort of presentable, but something that's kind of introduced that is not part of your own biosystem is sort of harder.
I mean, if you're
you guys ever... Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, if you're playing strings, you're going to play strings ahead of the beat so that you get the swell over the beat, aren't you?
I suppose so.
What about vocals? Because we did a vocal recording a couple of weeks ago, and we were using a native system, and there was only, it said, I think only 32 samples latency buffer, but the singer was already totally confused. Maybe it's because of the headphone, you know, her voice being loud, delayed, while she hears herself through herself.
Yeah.
Once we put in the DSP card, no more problems. But before that, her timing was odd.
Wow.
Well, that's interesting. I'll have to interrupt there because we have a time for our ad. Obviously, I mentioned this earlier. Nothing more to say, but than to play. Well, let's play it, and then I can tell you what it's all about, if the button works. Oh, there we are. Isotope, of course. RX3, this is the latest generation of iZotope's award-winning sound and sound restoration suite. With RX3 you get a whole bunch of new stuff. You got de-reverb technology, so you can remove or enhance the ambience as you wish. You've also got a lot of dialogue denoising plugins which you can run in real time, so it allows you to have multi-tracks, which enables you to be basically, if you're working in film, you can run a lot of them and, you know, get more out of your processor. There's lots of ways to work faster. We've got tabbed browsing. We've got the ability for multiple undo. You can now save RX in a document format, which means that you can come back to it and have multiple levels of undo. You can have same copies and have different processes working on the same file. All sorts of ways of working. Basically, if you want to get hold of it and work it for yourself, you go to izotope.com/RX. I think yes, there we go. For a 10-day trial, izotope.com/RX. In fact, that's fully functional, so we thoroughly recommend it. I want to say thank you once again to iZotope for sponsoring the show. And if you do need denoising, I mean, we use it all the time in video. We use it for all sorts of things. It's just great for sort of saving a take, or if there's any distortion, you can declip. There's all sorts of things that you can do, and it's the sort of thing. If you are an audio pro, you should probably have it in your toolkit, because it really is a very hard one to live without once you've actually had it at your disposal. Right, next one. MicroBrute. Yes, I'll play this. Just because this is... I'll take that out of the way. I don't think we need it. Now, excuse us. This is... we didn't mention it last week because it was literally just before... a day before the embargo, though. I had it in the studio. And this is Arturia's latest little mono. Same kind of model, Steiner Parker filter, and the multi-wave approach. And there seems to be an awful lot of interest in it, basically, and it's interesting. We'll go into the details about it later, but this is what it sounds like. This was just me having a quick jam with a square wave pitch modulation and just messing around with all the sort of drive and the metalizer on the wave and stuff. And I must say, I thought it was great. And what's interesting is not so much about maybe about the Arturia, but this kind of this new millennium of analog. We seem to have just a lot more of these things coming along, and it's quite interesting. I'm wondering about the dynamic of that, really, because it seems to me the only way you can achieve these amazing things is, you know, you have to take the transition from, you know, building it at home on your workbench or in some small cottage industry where it will cost a lot, and transitioning to manufacture in China. And it seems that that's a major challenge for these kind of things. I don't know, Dave, you're the synth nut. I know you and Arturia are probably not the fondest of bedfellows, but in terms of, you know, as being competitors. But I mean, as a synthesizer, 269 quid, that is pretty remarkable, right? That's cheaper.
It's amazing.
It's cheaper than a Doepfer A11-5 mini synth, which is just a module. Yeah. But
no, it is amazing.
It actually sounded not bad as well. Have you come across a Steiner Parker filter before? I mean, you haven't. I've noticed you haven't actually got a Steiner Parker.
No, only on a Synthicon, it sounded great. I mean, it was what's the Synthicon 3 oscillator gizmo, and again, when you crank the res up, it didn't particularly attenuate the bottom end, which I like in a filter, actually. I mean, I like all sorts of filters, but I do like that because it gives you that kind of bottom end grunt, but with the resonant peak, you know, you can peak it.
It sounds very much like an MS-20 kind of vibe, certainly on the MicroBrute anyway, but it's got that same uncontrollable harmonic kind of... It's like a teenager's breaking voice, which you can't quite sort of never know exactly what's going to happen. I don't know if that's an Arturia thing or the Steiner Parker generally. I'm not sure.
I don't know. Honestly, I haven't spent that much time. I know Kent, nice chap who fixes our stuff. He had one up there which I checked out, which I did like actually, but they are insanely expensive.
Yeah, and you can get modules, aren't they? Because Evuson that makes one or two. Noneric, have you? You got the Pulse 2. I've been trying to get a hold of one of those for ages. That's the sort of alternative. That's your sort of antithesis, I suppose, because it's analog, but it's DCO, is it, or is it VCO on that?
It's actually, yes. It's it says analog synthesizer, but I guess, I mean, the Pulse 1 was the analog synthesizer pure analog synthesizer. So I haven't had a chance to delve too much into it yet. But what I can say initially is that this thing is built like a fucking tank. I wouldn't want to have one of those hit on my head. And it's made in Germany.
Whoa.
Yes. And it's 500 euros, but it really feels like a tank. And the whole, I've tested a couple of smaller synths recently, but this one is extremely well built.
It's nice when that happens. I like to see it well built.
And I will be interested to hear what I heard in the latest generation of cheap analog synthesizers from Korg and the others, is that they are pretty noisy. I mean, do you guys have the same experience? With the Korg ones, for example, there's a sort of a kind of a...
to be honest, the bass and the beats were quiet. The keys were noisy, I thought.
Okay, yeah.
Bass and the beats didn't actually make a lot of noise, but certainly the delay on the Volca keys added an enormous amount of noise. But it sounds like it's using kind of, subdivided 2-bit RAM to create the delay. So I'm not so sure whether that's such a bad thing. But I think the thing is what's beautiful about it is, the idea that we can cook all this stuff up, because I managed, could hook the Volcas up to the MicroBrute, and you could do various things with it. But the thing that really I found quite interesting was more the fact that, the MicroBrute and the Mini-Brute, essentially, very similar synthesizers, but somehow the MicroBrute, it's down to form factor. It's really peculiar. So you essentially got the same thing, but just somehow, because it's smaller, it seems to work better. And I found the same thing with the Mini Nova and the Ultra Nova. I don't know if you've had the same thing. And
even with the keys, even with the mini keys.
Yes, it honestly didn't really affect me at all, the mini keys. But then I'm it's a monosynth, so I'm no real player. But
I'm interested.
It just felt more right somehow.
Maybe because we're getting more used to small equipment. A smaller iPad, a smaller iPhone, a smaller synthesizer. That's the way everything goes. And the Volca series, they're only that big, and they're light and everything. It's
maybe, I don't know if it's just that though. I think there's something else to it. It's different. It's that whole thing, and when you're making a synthesizer, you probably have to, you have to commit to, this is the form factor and this is it. Whereas, in fact, if you made the decision slightly differently, just industrially design and different case or whatever, you might have it be perceived completely differently. I mean, there were those things, weren't there? There were lots of different Wasps packaged. There was the Wasp Deluxe, and so that you'd have the same synthesizer, but you get the same thing with like the Korg MS-20 education thing. Same synthesizer, different box, just has a completely different. You have a completely different relationship with it. Oh. Do you? Mark, you've got a lot of Line 6 guitars. Are some of the forms of them, easier
it can be like down to the simplest thing. Okay, so I've got a Yamaha. What's it called? Hang on a minute. It's a little Yamaha.
You've got CSO1.
No, it's a Yamaha guitar thing. EZ. EG or something.
Yeah.
And I've been wrestling with that thing for ever since I bought it, because I thought I'll get rid of my MIDI guitar, I'll just get this Yamaha thing, I'll be able to input chords with that, because I can't do anything like hugely elaborate on a MIDI guitar anyway, because it's doesn't quite always work, and this thing's just horrible to play. This morning I was looking at the whammy bar thing on it, and I thought, I wonder if that comes off, because every time I put it in the case it gouges a hole in the front of the guitar. So I took it off and then started playing it. Suddenly the whole playing experience is completely transformed by the fact that I've got just that little bit more movement on my hand over the guitar bridge.
Interesting.
Could put my hand in a different place to play the strings, and suddenly I was like, oh my god, this is actually playable without that silly piece of metal there. So I think it is really important ergonomically and on synthesizers, if I can play keys and grab knobs and do things, that works much better for me than like doing one key at a time and then doing something with the mouse. It is definitely about getting your hands in there, and where they put things is really important.
Interesting. I note that Noneric there has a Wasp. Is this one of your weapons of choice from your techno days?
It's still working!
It's great. Creaks like a lunchbox, but still works.
I think there's only a couple out there that still work. Yeah. And there was a smaller one, right? The spider?
The gnat.
No, not the spider. The gnat, and the spider was the sequencer, right?
They should.
There you go.
Oh, hold on. Ah.
Yay!
So what's that one? Is that a gnat?
That is a Gnat special because it's got some wood attached.
Wood
to
on it, yeah.
Gnat's got
Wow.
wood. There's a
Which-
show title for you, I think.
That's got wood.
Gnat's
yeah.
got
Wood on it.
Hang on, I gotta go to the door.
Okay, no problem. Do you want me to,
Open
I'll
the
mute
door.
you a sec.
It's interesting, this mini keys thing. I have listened to loads of musicians who've gone, mini keys, I can't deal with mini keys, I can't. It's not proper music unless they're full-size keys and whatnot. And then somebody played me a video of a guy, it's actually this Raw Ridon and Richard Boner, and the keyboard player is this guy, Jean-Philippe Riker, who's a French guy, and I'm going to post it in the chat room. And it's a blind French keyboard player jamming over a well-known track. He's the funkiest of the funkiest, and it's mini keys. It's a Yamaha CSO1, and he's using the breath controller, and it is so full of expression and life. It is utterly brilliant.
Well,
so
you've also got
now
to think-
anyone who slags off mini keys,
Well, you got to think
watch this.
Trackman and DX100, surely, as well.
Yeah,
I've bought,
true, but this is more funky than that.
I've just bought the Korg micro keys controller with a 37 key micro keys thing, and I don't know, I can't quite get to grips with it because I like the feel of big keys, and what they've basically done is, I think on a big keyboard it's about 120 centimeters an octave, isn't it? And I think they've condensed it just down to about 100 centimeters, so it's not like they're not massively smaller.
I know what
Well,
you're
you
saying.
know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying. Gaz, sorry, I haven't come to you for a little while. I'm feeling you're neglected. You've surely got to be angling for something that one of these nouveau analogs that's come out. Surely, which one are you going to get?
Oh gosh, I keep thinking that the stylophone might win just because it's just so quirky, and I love that kind of quirky sort of, and I wonder just how long
The dual one.
the S2, the stylophone S2.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, just because it does seem like a lot of money, but I mean that's only a little bit more than the MicroBrute, isn't it? So I mean I know that the MicroBrute would be a more useful and practical thing. It's just I think there's the sort of like esoteric quality of the stylophone that looks quite appealing.
So
to me.
we're talking style over substance here, then, Gaz, are we?
Stylo over substance.
Hey.
Good. That was a good one.
Yeah, thank you. I'm here all day.
I keep
But I just
finding.
think I think it would be a nice companion for the OP1, the stylophone as well, just sort of on a form factor kind of.
Maybe.
thing.
I think
I
we should
keep
get
picking
But,
these things up. They're littered all around your
the Monotron.
yeah, things like this. I mean, that's. But I've seen pictures of those and thought that just looks rubbish.
It is
But now I've picked it
Can
up,
I-
I'm like, ooh, that looks really nice. Is it rubbish?
I would like
to play.
Oh,
Sorry, Gaz.
No, I was just going to. There was something else I wanted to mention, and that was that I discovered through to some people giving me some helpful comments on my blog about a little app called MIDI Bridge that you can run on your iPad or your iPhone. And now on the iPhone from iOS 7, because you can plug your kind of USB malarkey in, your little camera connection kit into your iPhone, I've actually been playing the this.
the CME X keys.
Yeah.
Is that
But
that? Is
playing my OP1 has got a USB. It's got MIDI, but it's only got a USB socket on it. This has also just got a USB socket on it too. But what the iPhone does with MIDI Bridge, it acts as a little kind of MIDI router. So you can send the MIDI coming out of this to the iPhone, and then from the iPhone to the OP1. And
Does the OP1 respond to poly aftertouch?
no, I don't
that's a
think so. I haven't noticed it doing anything yet, but that would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But I just thought that was quite interesting, just sort of like the iPhone being like because I've been waiting for the iConnect MIDI, the little box to come
Yeah,
out.
me
I'm
too.
still waiting for it.
I've been after
the
a review copy for ages, but they just haven't got it
the
together.
iConnect 2, the iConnect MIDI 2 is out now, so that's kind of getting And that does have that audio pass-through technology.
But surely isn't that going to cause that latency issue that we've been talking about as well? Or is it not, as long as you're not using interapp audio?
Theoretically, no, it shouldn't be as bad.
But the way that audio pass-through technology works, because we're waiting to see that, because just to give a bit of background for anyone, if you were to take an iPad and connect it into your studio system, the audio, if you use this little box, it not only is a MIDI connector, it actually takes the audio through your iOS device into this little box and then into the computer. And it does that, but you do have to create an aggregate device, which I guess is an obvious.
Well, that's
but if it just works like drivers, so if the audio latency on my Mac is say 64 and I have it set as that box set as one driver for the Mac, that's going to be the latency there. And if I have the iPad going in, it will be going through a different driver, but with a small amount of latency. I don't see why the latency needs to sort of expand or get bigger if it has DSP in it and it can route stuff around really fast without having to I know I read all about this thing and I worked out that it theoretically it should introduce no more latency than the latency you've got on the longest latency driver. I might be wrong, of course, but
I'm not sure.
In theory, it shouldn't.
But we are already touching on a subject here that we should also discuss when we talk about these small little synthesizers, is how to integrate them into your computer setup. Because what good is it if I have one or two of these little nice analog toys, but I want to use it in my song? So we're back to the good old days, MIDI, USB, routing back into there. What do we do?
Well, yeah, you have to. I mean, certainly with the MicroBrute, you've got a MIDI interface, and you have to record the audio. I mean, like with any analog synthesizer, I mean, it's analog, so therefore it's not digital, so it has to be captured. I mean, that's just the way it goes. I mean, presumably just...
Will in practice most people will not be too lazy to do that on a regular basis and use these small synthesizers to play around, create some sounds and sample it? But when they do a full-end production, I don't see too many people that I know going through the pain of recording the audio of the synthesizer and blah blah blah.
I don't know.
I wonder.
Yeah, maybe you're right. That's interesting though, because I did a remix recently, and I started by using lots of out of the box stuff. I talked about this before, but what I ended up doing was just taking the Jupiter 6, which is over there, and I was much more. I could get sounds I wanted out of it much more quickly, and I just recorded those.
Yeah, my brother does that.
Just record the synth. Yeah, that's my part, and so it's. There are obviously
that may be working in the UK, Nick. No. But in Germany, we are control freaks, we don't like to be recorded all the time, especially not our chancellor, And we like full control of ourselves, so no recording of audio, please.
And total recall, all right? Yeah.
Yeah. To the millisecond.
Total recall, absolutely. Total recall from the NSA. They're great. They're our friends and brothers because I can always go back to my old songs, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Of course.
I like that. But my brother records all analog stuff and makes loops out of it, and then he drags all the loops into Logic, and then he makes music with his own loops, which I think is another good way of doing it.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't really understand how to MIDI things together or how to plug things together. He's just like, this is making a good noise. I'll record that. I'll work out what the loop is, and then Logic kind of sorts it out for him, which is nice. So,
yeah, I mean, it's all down to your workflow anyway. But yeah, I don't see a problem in incorporating this stuff. I mean, Dave, you have to do it all the time. You just record it as audio, presumably. That's it.
Yeah, and half the joy is in, first of all, being able to create using a tactile control surface with knobs and having some interaction with that instrument. Secondly, I know Hans may be averse to it, but you have to commit. There are times where you have to commit, and sometimes it actually speeds the process up because you go, okay, done, right. And when you've changed that sound, particularly on the modular and the 8-voice and stuff like that, when you've altered that sound, you won't go back to it. Even if you could spend, an hour and a half maybe trying to get back to it, but the chances are you won't get close. So in your head, you've disengaged that part of the process, and you're on to the next thing.
Well, actually, what I do, or what I did in this instance, is I would say, well, I'd take this part and I record it with the filter more open than perhaps I wanted, and then I just slap a filter over it and close it down afterwards, or envelope it or add an LFO. So you can actually effectively re-synthesize. It's sort of like reamping, I suppose. I re-synthesize my synthesizer audio recordings with plugins. So I could just, and if it's out of time or whatever, I can chop it up. So I can do lots more, but it's the notion of finding the sound for the moment, playing it in, and just going bang. That's what I want, but I can tweak it later, and like I did, I open it and close it and what have you.
That's a great idea, and in fact, I think it's one of the kind of big tricks in utilising this stuff well. The one big problem that we've all got with anything, external and old school is that we can't clock LFOs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So if you use them to their strengths and have basically use the LFO to kind of modulate gently, and then within the computer you apply fairly strict, completely, sampled LFOs, then actually the hybrid of the two seems to create this kind of another world where you go, oh, there's some really interesting movement because not everything is locked.
Well, that's interesting you can say that, because you can do it with a silent way. And so, I was looking back at some reviews there. You can actually, if you've just got some spare outputs of your audio interface that will do DC coupled, then you can just have an LFO running, and you can plug that into a control voltage, certainly on a modular, and that will certainly work on the MicroBrute. I mean, the thing about the MicroBrute is it's 100% analog. It's not like the base station 2 where all of the knobs could send MIDI control. There's none of that. It's just an analog synth with note on, and you can clock the LFO. I mean, that's to the sequencer, and I think you can clock sequencer to external MIDI clock, or certainly to a gate input. So you do have a level of control over. So I mean, yes, it's just a question. You have to adapt, Hans. That's the way to do it.
Okay, I try to adapt myself and live with an unsecure. No, but I think the point that Dave made is very, very valid. I guess you get results a lot quicker. I think today a lot of people just spend too much time fiddling around. They have 100 tracks on there. I went to a friend's house a couple of weeks ago. He had over 1,000 unfinished songs. And if he wouldn't be able to do that, he would have probably have more songs that people can hear out there, because they have to be finished, because you have to start a new song. We have to finish your old one before you can start a new one. So you finish your old one and you don't, so I think, maybe it's just the right way to go. Record the audio, then it's burned on the track.
It's
nothing
done.
You can do about it. It's done. Live with it. Next song.
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking about this point actually today. I've got so many unfinished songs, probably like many of us here. But then I did actually start thinking, a lot of the time, that's what I enjoy, is starting songs. So,
just starting them.
I definitely enjoy that. That's my favourite thing.
And then, so actually spending loads of time just wading through editing something that will never be heard by anyone anyway, it's sort of
it's just
always a bit pointless. Yeah, so just like to make new songs all the time. Just new beginnings.
Yeah, it's exciting though, isn't it? I mean, when you start following a little musical idea,
that's a very good point, Mark. Excitement is what I find is that the excitement level. I mean, music is communication, and communication belongs to a moment. I always feel there's a certain situation, a certain mood, certain kind of people together in a room. It creates one moment, and music should also try to be that. And I find for my music that when I go back to tracks all the time, unfinished songs, it's very hard for me to get back to that excitement, to that emotion, to understand that moment, and carry on in that vein and finish that sort of moment. So what I did recently was to record, mix, and write the lyrics and everything for a song in 24 hours.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, me too. I love doing that as well.
No edits.
I always get stuck after the first verse though, and I have to do the first verse twice. So if you listen to any of my songs, it's always the same verse twice.
So
I get into the idea of it, and I think, oh, it's really good. I've got to record that. And then when I've recorded it, I've lost the moment of being in the process of writing the lyric. So I get overexcited and.
But would you guys agree that it's a sort of the excitement gets lost if you just? I think it's music is now. It's a moment. But if I work on a track for 2 months, which moment?
Gone. That's the one thing I found when I was working on this mix. It was like I really enjoyed the writing of the parts and the kind of rough arrangement, but really I'd much rather have just handed it over to someone to mix and sort out, because once I start getting into that, I just find it. I don't enjoy that part of it. I feel inadequate because I never do that. My mixing's not that good, you know. It's not that's not my strong point. But I'm working on my own, so I don't get any choice. So that's just that.
Start a mix competition like I did.
To finish what? To finish your track?
Good idea.
Yeah. We did a talk about mixing, and I thought, it's always so theoretical when we talk about these production techniques. Why not just have your song and we talk about my song? So I did a rough mix of my song, and then I offered the stems of the song for people to download so they can make up their own mind or do their own mix. And somebody in another forum started a mix competition with my tracks. So I've got lots of mixes now.
Were they all different? Were they all different mixes or quite a lot of different arrangements?
No, it was purely mixing. So there was no arrangement to be done. It was all just, I think, 18 audio tracks, and all you had to do was just to mix them together. So no remixing as such.
Right. Okay.
I've got something for you then. It's because it's October. That means it's time for me to start banging on about my suicidal Christmas song again.
Yes, of course.
So if you go to sometimessuicide.com, you can download all of the stems for that song, and I would love it if people sent me some more remixes of it. And if you send me remixes of it, I'll put them on SoundCloud with the other remixes that I got last year, and then we can tell everyone about it, and I'll give lots of money to charity.
Excellent.
Great.
There it is.
I got about 35 mixes from my one. And maybe you get like 50 or 100 mixes to choose from.
Well, one would be great.
Just one finished, yeah.
One good one.
You should play all the mixes at the same time, and then sort of do like a phase cancellation of all the mixes, and just
see what's left.
See what's left.
That could
be
an
interesting idea. Interesting concept. Wow, we're getting quite tangential here, but yeah, good stuff. Is there anything left?
Hope I didn't derail you too much in your program.
No,
sorry.
it's always good to have you, Hans. As you know, you're welcome. So yes, no, you shouldn't feel. Oh yes, this was good. I'm going to play this because I thought it looked interesting. I think it's this one, or is it not? Doesn't seem to be doing anything, so maybe it's not.
Hi,
that's the one I want.
Hi, this is Nile Rodgers from the group Chic, and welcome to Electric Dreams, our two-part celebration of the life and times of legendary producer Giorgio Moroder, the king of electronica and arguably the man who invented what we now know as dance music.
The experimental stuff.
I don't know who that was an excerpt. There's a two-part BBC. I think it's a BBC documentary, but it's interesting that it was Nile Rodgers who was narrating, or certainly the intro. I think he's got various parts. I haven't had a chance to listen to it all, but it was what was quite interesting. This was just this news that came out. I think it was last week or the week before that basically Nile and Moroder are going to work together, or at least it slipped out that they were going to try and write some stuff together, and it just sounded like a fantastic idea, just all round. And I'm always any excuse to show a picture of Moroder and his fabulous look at the time. He doesn't look like that now, but I'm sure if I just maybe he could grow a moustache for the promo of this new product. That would be fantastic. Dave. Looking forward to that. It's a shame we didn't have Rich on, actually, because he's in Ireland with Chic at the moment, who look like they're having a blast.
Yeah, hanging out with Bono. That's quite funny. I sat next to Bono on a plane once. In fact, going to Ireland. I was going to work for Elvis Costello, and just as the door of the plane shut, Bono ran in and sat next to me, and I thought... In fact, I made some comment about how it was usually a drummer who was late. Yeah, we got talking, and I was like, so... This is quite surreal, really. I take it Enya's going to be the trolley dolly, and maybe Edge is actually piloting the plane or something. Anyway, yes, so that sounds like kind of Rich's life at the minute. Yeah, though, this could be really good. It could be really good, or Nothing Nile does is bad, is it, really?
He's got
Giorgio
the magic touch
Moroder's
at the
done
moment.
some pretty rank stuff occasionally, but no, Nile's just... He really has got it going on.
It certainly has. In fact, for those of you who are in the UK and perhaps are fans, or maybe some younger members of your family are fans of the X Factor, Chic are in fact playing this Saturday night on the X Factor, or Sunday, one weekend. The night that they do the acts coming on and playing. So Chic are actually performing. So Rich, our very own Rich Hilton from the podcast,
Woohoo!
will be on stage as one of Cal's monster productions. It's kind of.
So we see if we can have a whip round and see if we can get him to drug somebody on the judge panel. That would be quite funny. Spike it with a load of Rohypnol or something like that. That would be quite entertaining. I'll give you a tenner, Rich.
Yeah, I think you probably need a bit more than that. That's interesting, though. But I know, Gaz, good. That'd be a great thing to see. I'd love to see be a fly on the wall in that session. I bet he just uses plugins now.
The obviously the big Daft Punk hit album this year features both of them, doesn't it, very prominently? Yeah. There's the song called Giorgio on the Daft Punk album, which has got the interview. Giorgio's just I don't know if you've heard that song, but Giorgio's just talking. The songs is like the first few minutes is just Giorgio talking over before it blooms into the full song. So it's just quite interesting that's the connection, the modern connection that both, because the Chic's kind of rise to prominence in recent times is very much to do with the exposure that Get Lucky. That's got to be the biggest song of the year, hasn't it? Really, everywhere.
It's huge, absolutely huge.
So I think it's quite interesting. But I think both of them will be very, very conscious of their legacies when they work together. So I think that I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be really good. I think they'll really focus on the best of what They'll probably bring out the best in each other. I'm sure.
I do hope so.
It's incredibly exciting, though. I'm with you on this, Nick.
I look forward to it. Hans, A, are you interested, excited, and B, can you think of any other fabulous pairings that we'd like to see? Perhaps someone from a German electronic act.
Kraftwerk and Iggy Pop.
That could be interesting.
Could be interesting. Could be.
But I thought I actually saw Chick on a Sonar performance a couple of years ago. That was the last time. Yeah, it was great.
They absolutely rock it, don't they? We're very lucky.
Yeah. Did you see that thing about Nile's guitar?
Yes.
The Hitmaker guitar.
Yes.
Having generated something like over $1 billion worth of hits.
No, really?
Oh,
It was just brilliant, and he nearly lost it. In fact, I've got it on here. It was valued at the total value of music to flow through Nile's Hitmaker guitar was once valued at $2 billion. That's 1.3 billion pounds. How about that? And he nearly lost it.
Bloody hell!
He left it on a train, didn't he?
Yeah.
The other day, he left it on a train and got off the train, and then realised that he'd left it on the train, and then he drove to the end of the line, got on the carriage, and it wasn't there, and then he said it was like the same as losing a friend. He said he had the same feeling that when Bernard died, he had that same kind of feeling of absolute loss, and then he got off the train and there it was, just lying on the platform, still in the gig bag. Can you imagine that?
Well, may I suggest perhaps, Mr. Rodgers, that you're
GPS tracker
slightly more careful perhaps. Yes, but no, but yeah, that'd be terrifying, wouldn't it? I can't imagine. Well, I can, because I haven't got any instruments that would sort of make me that excited about it. I don't know. It might be, but it sounds like a good potential
see that, and
collaboration.
I feel Love is a classic example of why we don't really need to worry too much about the fact that our stuff doesn't stay in time with each other, because by about halfway through the 12-inch, the hi-hat's nearly a 16th note out of time with where it started off, so it just everything drifts across the bar in such a way that it's all sort of becomes higgledy-piggledy, and nobody really notices that the kick drum and the hi-hats aren't aligned. They're way off. Just go and listen to that mix again today and listen for the drift, because it's absolutely extraordinary how far it drifts out.
That is interesting. That's a bit like, so we've got another revelation, so it's 16th out on the
about 16th. No, it almost goes so far out that it comes back onto beat again at one point.
So a lot of flamming going on there.
Yeah.
That and the Hey Jude F-bomb. Gosh, this is a mine of information. Well, unless there's anything else that we want to cover, I mean, it feels like this perhaps natural attenuation has brought us to an ending point of the show. So I want to say thanks to everybody for joining us. It's been great to have you along, and good to see you, Hans, in full HD. Now we've got you.
Yeah, great.
We're back in the. So every computer is utilised here.
What about this one?
What's
Good
that?
quality.
The stereo debate.
Mark's stereo debate. Yes.
Do you know? Can we leave it till Rich Hilton's on, because he's very opposed to this idea, and I think it would be much more fun if we do it when he's here.
Yes.
So let's.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
So that person that asked about it.
Yes, because Mark got
a nice audio boo from somebody.
We will come back to that.
Promise
definitely.
to do it.
I will promise to do it.
But it will be more fun with Rich here.
Yeah, definitely, because he's up for a bit more debate.
Bit of an argument.
Yeah, I think that's probably very true.
Hopefully, anyway.
So I want to say thanks to everybody. I'll start with Noneric over there, musotalk.de. Don't forget, go and check his stuff out. Even if you don't speak German.
And there will be a Pulse 2 review online soon.
Ah, yes, I'm hoping to get one. I've been promised one, but it hasn't arrived, so I don't know whether that's...
Okay.
But you'll be...
Maybe I
can
help you out there.
I'm sure you'll be first. Anyway, yes, so Noneric over musotalk.de. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of your week. And we'll also come and say goodbye to Mr. Gaz Williams, gazwilliams.me. Look at that, the lower third and everything. Thank you very much for joining us, Gaz.
Yes, it's a pleasure, as always.
Oh my, it's getting dark, isn't it? I've just realised. It's very hard to tell in here because there is no light coming in because it's dark, as it were. But yes, Gaz, and look out for Gaz's Machina review. When you've had a chance, just get back to me when you've had a chance to check that link. Did you get the link I sent you?
Oh,
I
shall have a look.
I sent it on Skype.
Oh, okay, cool.
So it'll be there.
Yeah, I'm sure. But yes, thank you everybody again. It's always great pleasure to talk about this stuff. And yeah, check out the Machina review. I think I definitely think it's quite impressive.
It's a beautiful thing, that's for sure. Even in white. I think maybe it's something that Chic should have, because it's a white.
In white, yeah.
It's so cheeky. Cheeky. Anyway, thank you, Gaz. And also thanks to Dave Spears, G4 Software, makers of fine software instruments and synth collectors.
Thank you. I'd just like to take a moment, because obviously there's a moment of condolence, really. This week we've lost something really important, because the Jonas Brothers have announced a split.
Oh, man. That is, there was musical differences, I think, was cited, wasn't it?
I thought you were going to say we'd lost something important because Lou Reed had died.
Well,
actually,
exactly.
But we have lost something important there as well.
Well, that's true. I'm sure the interwebs have been full of Lou Reedisms and what have you. It's actually quite sad because he always looked like he was. Always looked to me like one of those DC comic superheroes. Whenever I saw him performing, he just looked massively sort of statuesque and kind of indestructible, which, considering what he went through in the 70s, is really surprising. I suppose he's very fortunate to have survived as long as he did, given his lifestyle during those hedonistic
apparently
days.
He had a liver transplant in April, and then was sort of all better from that and was saying, I'm a miracle of modern science, and I don't know what he actually died of. But,
oh, well, that's sad. But maybe
somebody started a rumour, didn't they, about 2 days before it really happened? Somebody started a rumour that he died, and that had kind of whipped round, and then it was established that actually he was alive, and then he was dead. So when he really was dead, I was going, oh no, it's just somebody started another rumour again. And then gradually it came
maybe
apparent.
it was a psychic.
So I hope that person's feeling really bad now.
They might be feeling really good. They might have their tarot cards out. They might be opening their doors to all of the world of, people that want to know what's going to happen next.
That's the name for the psychic, I suppose, isn't it? You should be called See, I Told You So. That would be the kind of thing. You'd have a shop with that above it. Anyway,
do you think? Oh no, I won't go there.
I think perhaps, but sad news. But anyway, I suppose these things do come to pass. And anyway, condolences to all involved. But that's it for Sonic Talk number 330. God, what did I say it was? 338, 36. That's right. I'm going to play out again with Mr. Mr. Josef Skrzek. Just because I can, because I can't get enough of it.